They doubted you. They laughed at you. They told you what you couldn't do, what you never become, and how far you'd never go. And the truth is, every one of us has felt that sting, the sting of being underestimated, disrespected, or counted out. But here's the thing, revenge isn't about clapping back. It's not about fighting fire with fire. The greatest revenge you could ever give anybody who doubted you is your success. Because success is undeniable. Success is louder than arguments. It's stronger than hate. And it silences every critic without you having to say a word. Tonight, I want to show you why your grind, your discipline, and your relentless pursuit of greatness will always be the best revenge you could ever give. Every single one of us has gone through something that cut us so deep we thought we couldn't recover. Maybe it was betrayal. Maybe it was somebody looking you dead in the eyes and saying you weren't good enough. Maybe it was a parent who abandoned you, a teacher who told you you'd never make it, or a so-called friend who laughed at your dreams. That kind of pain sticks with you. It lingers in the back of your mind. And if you let it, it'll eat away at you. But here's the reality. You've got a choice. You can let pain break you, or you can let it build you. You can let it turn you bitter, or you can let it turn you unstoppable. Think about it. Pain is one of the most powerful energies in existence. It has weight, it has intensity, and it has memory. And like any energy, it can either destroy or create, depending on how you use it. Most people allow pain to paralyze them. They replay the hurt over and over, and instead of moving forward, they get stuck. They become defined by what happened to them. But those who truly win at life, the ones who rise to the top against all odds, are the ones who learn to transmute their pain into fuel. They take the insult, the rejection, the betrayal, and they say, all right, that's what you think of me. Watch what I do with it. It's a psychological shift. When someone disrespects you, the easy reaction is anger. You want to lash out. You want to prove them wrong in that moment. But that's short term. That's emotional. The deeper response, the one that leads to transformation, is to channel that pain into discipline. To wake up earlier, to work harder, to focus sharper. To use that fire not to burn everything down, but to forge something greater. You see, human beings are motivated by two fundamental forces, the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. But the highest performers in the world don't avoid pain. They embrace it. They understand that pain is an unavoidable part of growth. It's not just an obstacle, it's the very thing that shapes you. If you've ever been in the gym, you know this. Muscles don't grow without resistance. The weight has to push against you. It has to tear fibers apart before strength can form. Life works the same way. Without resistance, without pain, there is no growth. So when I say turn pain into fuel, what I mean is stop running from what hurts you. Stop pretending it didn't happen. Instead, pick it up and carry it with you to the finish line. Because nothing is more powerful than a man or woman who has suffered and refused to give up. That pain becomes the story you tell, the resilience you show, and the fire you light in others. It becomes the force that pushes you through sleepless nights, through sacrifices, through rejection after rejection. And here's the paradox. You don't actually have to seek revenge against the people who hurt you. You don't need to prove them wrong by fighting them directly. All you have to do is succeed, because success makes the pain meaningful. It redeems the suffering. It turns what once felt like a wound into a weapon. When you succeed, the betrayal doesn't define you anymore. It refines you. And those who once doubted you are forced to face the reality that their words, their actions, their rejection became the very fuel for your greatness. So I want you to look at your pain differently tonight. Don't see it as a weight pulling you down. See it as the fire that can lift you higher. Stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what can I build because of this? Because the truth is, your greatest revenge will never be payback. It will be progress. When people hurt us, the first instinct is always emotional. We get angry, frustrated, even consumed by the thought of striking back. But the problem with emotion is that it burns hot and fast. It doesn't last. It feels powerful in the moment, but it rarely builds anything of substance. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It doesn't flare up and fade away. Discipline is the quiet, consistent force that turns ordinary people into extraordinary ones. Think about it this way, revenge is about reaction, but success is about construction. Revenge is short-term. It satisfies the ego, but leaves nothing behind. Discipline, however, is long-term. It's about setting up routines, controlling impulses, and doing the hard thing even when no one is watching. And here's the truth, the people who doubted you, they're not actually your biggest enemy. Your biggest enemy is your lack of discipline. Because without it, you can't convert potential into reality. The world is full of talented people who never became successful. Not because they weren't gifted, but because they relied on bursts of emotion instead of cultivating steady discipline. Success doesn't come from a few days of working hard out of anger. It comes from years of showing up day after day, regardless of how you feel. The grind is boring, but it's the boring repetition of discipline that builds something unshakable. Discipline is what keeps you aligned with your purpose when your emotions tell you to quit. Discipline is what makes you get up at 5 in the morning when your body says, stay in bed. Discipline is what helps you stay focused when distractions are pulling you in 100 different directions. And that's why it's the most powerful form of revenge. Because it doesn't just silence doubters, it transforms you into someone they can't even recognize anymore. So don't waste your time trying to clap back, trying to prove yourself with words. Prove yourself with consistency. Prove yourself with results that no one can argue with. Because when you build your life on discipline instead of emotion, you don't just win once, you keep winning. One of the greatest mistakes people make when they're underestimated or insulted is that they try to respond immediately. Someone doubts them, someone mocks them, and the instinct is to defend themselves, to argue, to shout back. You don't know me. You don't know what I'm capable of. And yet, if you've lived long enough, you realize that words rarely change the mind of someone who has already chosen to dismiss you. In fact, the more you argue with them, the more you validate their position. You lower yourself to their level, and you expend precious energy that could be spent building something that proves them wrong. There's a profound strength in silence. Not the silence of weakness, not the silence of passivity, but the silence of someone so confident in their mission that they no longer need to justify themselves. It's the silence of a builder, of a creator, of someone who understands that results carry more weight than explanations ever could. Because here's the truth: people can argue with your words, but they cannot argue with your reality once you've built it. Think about it in your own life. Who commands more respect? The person who constantly boasts about what they're going to do, or the person who works quietly, shows up consistently, and then one day reveals a result so undeniable it leaves everyone speechless? Silence in this context is not emptiness, it's strategy, it's restraint. It's the choice to let your work, your discipline, and your success be the loudest voice in the room. Psychologically, this is important. When you respond emotionally, you give away power. You shift your focus away from your goals and towards someone else's opinion. But when you remain silent and keep building, you stay centered in your own purpose. You conserve your energy for the things that matter. You transform what could have been wasted anger into productive momentum. There's also something deeply humbling about letting results speak. It requires patience. It requires faith that your effort will eventually bear fruit, even if the recognition doesn't come today. But that's the essence of greatness, it's delayed gratification. It's understanding that a tree doesn't grow overnight. It takes years of silent, unseen growth underground before the branches ever reach the sky. Your success is the same. It's built quietly in the shadows, long before the world applauds. And when the moment comes, when the fruit finally appears, silence becomes deafening. Your results shout on your behalf. The same people who once doubted you are left with no choice but to acknowledge what you've become. They may not like you, they may never apologize, but they cannot deny the evidence standing in front of them. That is the power of silence. So instead of wasting energy arguing with people who don't believe in you, invest that energy in becoming someone undeniable. Let your silence be filled with work, with discipline, with relentless pursuit. And when the time comes, let your success do the talking. Because silence backed by achievement echoes louder than 1,000 words ever could. If you've been underestimated, if you've been dismissed, if you've been told you'll never make it, the most effective response is not to argue, not to fight back with words, but to dedicate yourself to a standard of effort that few people are willing to match. Outwork them, outlast them, outshine them. Because in the end, it's not about talent, it's not about luck, it's about who's willing to stay in the game longer, who's willing to push harder, who's willing to sacrifice more. The truth is, most people quit. They get excited for a little while, they chase the goal when it feels good, when it feels fresh, but as soon as the grind gets uncomfortable, they stop. And that's why outworking people is not as difficult as it sounds. You don't need to be the most talented, you just need to be the one who refuses to quit when everyone else does. Discipline and endurance will beat raw talent almost every time. Philosophically, this is tied to the idea of resilience. Life is a constant testing ground. It will push you, bend you, and sometimes break you down. Not because it's cruel, because it's refining you. The longer you endure, the more you prove, not just to the world, but to yourself, that you have the capacity to withstand. And when you outlast, you develop a kind of moral authority. You're no longer someone who simply dreamed. You're someone who lived through the nights of doubt, the mornings of exhaustion, the years of anonymity, and still kept moving. That kind of persistence cannot be faked. But outworking and outlasting are not just about survival, they're about shining. Because when you commit yourself to the grind, when you invest years of effort into mastering your craft, you rise above mediocrity. You don't just get by, you excel. And that excellence speaks louder than any insult, any rejection, any laughter you endured in the beginning. It sets you apart. People who once doubted you are forced to reckon with the fact that you've become exceptional, not because you were handed something, but because you refused to stop working when everyone else gave it. There's also something deeply liberating about this approach. When you make up your mind to outwork and outlast, you stop being a prisoner to comparison. You no longer care about proving yourself on someone else's timeline because you've committed to the long game. You know that success isn't measured in weeks or months, it's measured in decades. And once you internalize that, you become unshakable. You realize that while others may sprint, you are running a marathon, and marathons are not won in the first mile. Outshining is the natural result of this kind of commitment. Not because you set out to humiliate others, because the discipline, the resilience, and the mastery you've built create a light that simply cannot be ignored. Success has a way of making you undeniable. And when you shine, you don't even need to point fingers at those who doubted you. The contrast between their expectations and your reality does the work for you. So don't just fight for quick wins. Commit yourself to the long haul. Decide that no matter how long it takes, no matter how difficult it gets, you will not stop. Because when you outwork, outlast, and outshine, you don't just prove people wrong, you prove yourself right. One of the most painful experiences we face is being defined by others. People are quick to label you lazy, weak, not smart enough, not disciplined enough, not capable. And if you hear those labels often enough, they begin to seep into your identity. You start to believe the story that other people have written about you, as though you were nothing more than a character in their script. But here's the truth. You are not obligated to accept the narrative others assign you. You have the power, through discipline and achievement, to rewrite the story. The human mind is deeply influenced by narrative. We make sense of our lives by telling ourselves stories. This is who I am. This is what I can do. This is what I'm worth. When others define you, they're essentially imposing a story onto your life. And if you accept it, you live it out. But if you challenge it, if you decide that your story will be written by your actions, not their opinions, then you begin to reclaim your agency. Redefining the narrative isn't easy because it requires stepping outside of the comfort of identity. Even a negative identity can feel secure because it's familiar. If you've been told your whole life that you're average or that you're destined to fail, there's a strange kind of safety in staying within that definition. It means you don't have to risk becoming more because failure can always be explained away. I was never meant to succeed. But if you choose to redefine the story, you also choose responsibility. You choose the risk of failing on your own terms. And that's where true greatness is born. Not in repeating the script you were given, but in tearing it up and writing a new one. History is filled with people who were counted out, underestimated, even ridiculed. Yet they used those false labels as food. They didn't just prove others wrong, they redefined what was possible for themselves and for everyone watching. When you succeed, you don't only change your own life, you change perception itself. The same teacher who once said you'd never make it, the same peers who mocked you, the same people who wrote you off, they are forced to reconsider the story. Suddenly, you are no longer the person they said you were. You are living proof that labels can be shattered, that narratives can be rewritten. And in doing so, you don't just silence their doubt. You inspire others who have been trapped under the same weight of definition. But remember, this isn't about revenge in the shallow sense. Redefining the narrative isn't about humiliating those who doubted you. It's about transcending them. It's about showing that no one has the authority to dictate who you will become, except you. The deeper victory is not in proving others wrong. It's in proving that their words never had the final say. This is why success is such a powerful force. It transforms the meaning of past suffering. The betrayal, the rejection, the laughter, they don't disappear, but they take on new significance. They become chapters in the story you've rewritten. They become evidence of how far you've come. And the beauty of it is that the narrative doesn't just belong to you anymore. It becomes a beacon for others, a reminder that they too can pick up the pen and take control of their own story. So don't settle for the labels you've been given. Don't live inside the box someone else built for you. Redefine the narrative with your actions, your discipline, and your success. If you've been hurt, doubted, betrayed, or counted out, it's tempting to live your whole life trying to get back at the people who wronged you. That's what a grudge is. It's carrying yesterday's pain into tomorrow, dragging it with you like a heavy chain. And here's the problem: a grudge will keep you stuck in the past. It locks you into a small story, a cycle of bitterness where the highest thing you can imagine is payback. But if you want to rise, if you want to live fully, if you want your life to matter, you have to aim higher than revenge. You have to build something bigger than a grudge. You have to build a legacy. A grudge is about them. A legacy is about you and everyone your life touches. A grudge looks backward. A legacy looks forward. And when you shift your focus from trying to hurt those who hurt you to trying to create something lasting, your energy multiplies. Suddenly, your pain becomes raw material for growth. Your suffering becomes a foundation for meaning. And that meaning, what you create, who you inspire, what you leave behind, is far more satisfying than any short-term victory over your enemies. Think about it. Nobody remembers people for the grudges they carried. We remember people for the impact they made. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, wrongfully and justly humiliated. He had every reason to hold a grudge. And yet, when he was finally free, he chose legacy over bitterness. He chose to build something greater than revenge. And because of that choice, he didn't just change his own life, he changed a nation. That is the difference between living small and living great. Philosophically, this comes down to the question of meaning. A life consumed by resentment has no higher aim. It collapses inward, feeding on itself. But a life oriented toward legacy, toward contribution, expands outward. It recognizes that true success is not just what you accumulate, but what you give, what you create, what you leave behind that makes the world better than you found it. Legacy demands growth, discipline, and vision. It requires that you rise above the smallness of payback and reach for something transcendent. And here's the paradox: when you focus on building a legacy, the revenge takes care of itself. You don't need to fight back. You don't need to prove anyone wrong. Your success, your contribution, your impact, it stands as living proof. Those who doubted you are silenced not because you shouted louder, but because your life became a testimony greater than any argument. So the question you have to ask yourself is this: do you want to spend your years chained to bitterness? Or do you want to use that energy to build something enduring? Do you want to be remembered for who you fought against or for what you stood for? Do you want your story to end with resentment or to continue through the lives you influenced, the change you sparked, the example you set? Because in the end, success is not just the best revenge, it's the foundation of legacy. And legacy is the only thing that lasts when it's all said and done. Success is the only answer you'll ever need. Not arguments, not grudges, not revenge in the shallow sense, but the kind of success that comes from turning pain into fuel, mastering discipline over emotion, letting silence speak for you, outworking and outlasting every obstacle, redefining the narrative they tried to trap you in, and building a legacy that outlives you. Every doubt, every insult, every betrayal, they're not there to destroy you. They're there to shape you into someone greater than you imagine. And the choice is always yours. You can waste your life trying to prove others wrong, or you can invest it in proving yourself right. So stop carrying the weight of bitterness. Stop wasting words on people who don't believe in you. Channel everything into the grind, into the discipline, into the vision of the life you know you're meant to live. Because in the end, your enemies don't deserve your anger. They deserve to witness your success. And when that success comes, when your life itself becomes undeniable proof of what's possible, you won't need to say a thing. They'll know. The world will know. And you'll have built something far greater than revenge. You'll have built a life worth remembering.